All right, and welcome to the Freedom Hawk Equity Podcast. And we're here today with Robbie and Jacob. And guys, this is episode number 1. So listen, this podcast, we're going to go over our company, how we provide value for the sellers, and some of the cool things that we're doing in the marketplace. So Jacob, Robbie, how you guys feeling today?
Excited, man. Excited.
Let's go. Let's go. Robbie, how you feeling, man?
Feeling great. Knocked
Good.
out a good little 5-miler this morning to get the day
Dang.
started right. And so
Okay.
now here we are with the boys, just trying to do some big things.
Absolutely.
Sir.
So listen, first episode, Freedom Hawk Equity. We've been in business now for quite a bit. Jacob, you've been with us for a while now. And look, what I want to do is I want to provide our sellers, the opportunity to kind of get a glimpse into what we do as a company and, kind of behind the scenes, right? At the end of the day, it's always about the seller experience with Freedom Hawk Equity. Like we want to make sure that whenever they're working with us, that they leave that experience feeling good, feeling like it's a successful transaction. So let's just kind of dive right into it. Jacob, what about Freedom Hawk Equity has been maybe like the biggest thing for you? Obviously, in your personal growth, but some of the success stories you've seen with sellers.
Some of the success stories that I've seen is, sometimes sellers in general can need guidance whenever it comes to navigating, the real estate market and even the sale of a property.
Right.
And even by guidance, sometimes that means somebody coming in and really pushing them to the finish line. Sometimes it can be a scary thing sometimes. There's a lot of change. Our job is to create that security, to make everything easy and simple and a hands-off experience for them. I always tell people real estate is like a big puzzle. Our job is to put the pieces of the puzzle together to give them a complete hands-off experience and get them to their current or their future destination.
Yeah, it's so huge. I think there's selling a piece of real estate. We sometimes because we do it 5-6 times a day, right?
Yeah.
We get so used to it.
Right.
But if you look at the big scheme of things, the average person will only have 1 to 2 real estate transactions in their whole life. So it's a big life event. It's right up there with marriage, having kids, all that good stuff, right? So selling a piece of property is a huge process for our sellers. And like Jacob, exactly what you're saying is there's a lot of different pieces involved with that, and I feel like one of our main jobs as a company is to provide our sellers that basically that number one, that hands-off experience, but number two, it's like, how do we hold your hand all the way through the process to where you feel comfortable and confident, throughout. So Robbie, look, you've been in real estate for a while now. You're, an expert in working with investors and buyers, but you also work with sellers, navigating showings and things like that. What are some of the things that you see when helping sellers with their process of selling?
Man, the main thing that I see really is just how good of a job that the back office does. Jacob and ET and Little Blake, we'll call him Little Blake. You're not so little, but Little Blake. Just how good of a job that these guys do setting me up for success. They have really great rapport with the sellers. They make sure that they know their situation, why they're selling. They know their schedules. It's a very personal experience, and I think that makes my job a lot easier because I'm the one that's having to schedule the showings and having to, also have that communication with them and having, 7, 8, 10 people, whether they're investors or realtors or, and buyers, whatever it is. I feel like it can be kind of overwhelming, even though you understand like, hey, we're selling this property and, we're going to make it super easy and hands off. It can still be quite alarming for some sellers to just have, 3, 4 people come into your house a day.
Right.
I don't want one person to come to my house in one day.
Exactly.
I can imagine 5 or 6. So the main thing that I see is just how good of a job that those ladies and gentlemen do in the office. That makes my job easier. There are some times where, schedules are just, it's difficult. They have kids. They got to take them to school or just whatever situations that they're in. But thankfully, because they do a really good job of setting me up for success, I'm able to just have a real easy time getting those showings scheduled, having those easy conversations, And even the not so easy ones,
Yeah.
they really set me up for success
Yeah.
back there.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is just communication, and what I've noticed is we do our best to over communicate with our sellers, because it's like we want to make sure that they're in the know with the whole process. And like Robbie, you're saying, who wants 4 or 5 people showing up at your house every day? But if you have someone, kind of explaining the process to you, it just doesn't seem as scary.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Robbie. So look, I want to get into the financial opportunity for our sellers, because right now, there's a statistic out there that the average American doesn't have $500 for an emergency,
I believe that.
right? And so when our sellers, oftentimes our sellers are selling their property due to a situation or a circumstance, right? But there's a financial upside for them, and I think sometimes whenever we're working with our sellers, it's easy to forget about the golden opportunity that they have in front of them, and it's easy to get sidetracked into just the process of selling.
Mhm.
But I really want to focus in on, man, when these sellers go to the closing table after they close, we're talking about a life-changing experience, right? We're talking about people going from negative in their checking account to having 6 figures of cash in the bank, right? And so it's a transformational process financially for a lot of our sellers, especially with the way kind of the financial landscape is nowadays. A lot of people can use that extra cash. So I think just let's focus in on that for a second, because I think oftentimes we get so wrapped up in the process of selling a house, but it's like, man, these sellers, their lives are literally going to change forever due to this financial windfall that they have.
Yeah.
Jacob, what are some things that you've seen with sellers to where they've maybe things were a little rocky, but then when you got a seller at a closing table and they had that big transformation financially, what are some experiences that you had with that?
Yeah, the first one that comes to my head was somebody that we closed about 2 to 3 months ago. She really needed to sell and she wanted to sell, but every day she would kind of come back and be like, I don't want to sell anymore,
Yep.
because she had a lot of anxiety.
Yep.
Because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
She wanted to move across the country to go live with her family.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a low-paying job, but she was there for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's all she knew, was just go to work and come back home in her safe place.
That's right.
So, she wanted to sell, and then, we had to talk to her probably every other day or, a couple of
I
times
remember
a
this
week.
transaction, yeah.
And, it says a lot about, he was saying the front end, but the back end is what really helped this deal go through, and the team that we have. But, it was an everyday battle, but we kept her mind on the prize and kept her mind focused. And she had to realize that she was about to have life-changing money.
Mm-hmm.
And, she had to get out of her comfort zone, and she had to have somebody there to hold her hand and be there for her, because I don't think anybody else would have.
Right.
And she probably would have never sold that house, and she never would have moved back with her family, and she wouldn't have never had over $100,000 at her bank account.
100%.
So I know that was life-changing for her, and that's my favorite part about this industry, is whenever you see somebody who is basically just asking for help, but they don't know how, and they don't know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying before, it's our job to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and get them where they're supposed to go. And, I'm proud of us, and I'm also proud of her, for really seeing it through and getting to the closing table.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember that transaction. And so this was a lady, she reached out to us, and she wanted to sell her property because, you're right, she wanted to move across the country, go live with her family.
Hmm.
She lived in Lehigh Acres, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been in the home for, call it 15, 20 years, something
Right.
like that. And she, I believe she was 60, 61 years old. She worked at the airport, okay, made $20,000 a year, like literally $20,000 a year. Take taxes out of that, do the math, right? It's rough. And she had an opportunity to essentially transform her financial well-being. Now, the challenge, exactly what Jacob was saying, is sometimes when you're used to a certain lifestyle, right? And you're used to a certain struggle. And oftentimes we'll see sellers where things have been tough. They've been hit with some unfortunate situations, and life can really kind of set you back. It's hard sometimes to see that golden prize at the end of the tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for this particular seller, every day we had to have these conversations with her to kind of, not just keep her motivated, but to keep her focused on the prize, right? Because sometimes when life gets overwhelming, it's hard to see that. Now, the cool thing about this situation is we got it to the finish line. She paid off the debt, right? She had debt on the house, okay? So she was paying a mortgage, making $20,000 a year. She was barely making enough money where it was like, go to work, come home. That was it. Like there was no extra anything for anything. Single lady, her children are older. They live out of state. All of her family's out of state. She's by herself in Florida, doesn't have any support system, no help, no financial assistance. So we take her from that situation, and then when we close, she had $112,000 hit her bank account. Okay, so you do the math. 112 divided by 20, that's almost 6 years of salary in one day, right? So, happy story. Now she's living in Indianapolis with her family, bank account full of money, doesn't have to work right now. Actually, she set up some things for retirement. So she took a big portion of that money, did some retirement things. She had the means to be able to move across country. By the way, we actually helped her. We accommodated her moving service. We paid for her hotels across, while she was traveling across the country. So it was a beautiful experience. And the really cool thing is she left that transaction completely transformed financially, right? She went from struggling to pay her mortgage every month and struggling to buy groceries to now having 6 years of salary in the bank account.
Wow.
I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? So I think these stories are important to remind ourselves, the power that we provide people, because sometimes we just get caught up in the transaction itself. But what I really, really, love to focus in on is how it changes people's lives.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot to, just unfortunate situations that come up in life. And sometimes those people really, like you said, don't know how to get out of it. They know that you got to get out of it, but you say, where do I turn to? Where do I go? I don't have any family here. I don't have any kind of support. What do we do?
Yep.
And I think sometimes in this industry, like you said, it's very easy to focus on the transaction, to focus on just, okay, how are we going to get this done? But I think that, specifically here at Freedom Hawk, we really do a good job of remembering that there's a person, on the other side of the deal, and that there's a lot more than just a house at stake.
Yeah.
Specifically with, the financial windfall, I think sometimes people really forget the opportunity cost, deciding to wait, 2, 3, 4 months to make that decision where, hey, let's just get this done. Let us help you, get you out. You get that windfall. Life has changed, and you don't have to wait another 3, 4, 5 months. Let's just get it done. So
that's a good point, Robbie. Oftentimes when we talk with a seller, sometimes they're like, I want to sell, but I feel like I need to wait for something, or I need to, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little nervous about the situation. Jacob, what do you tell some of our sellers in that situation to kind of help navigate, that terrain?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, my job when it comes to a seller is to create 100% certainty. Whatever that may be. Like you said, some people are nervous about something. My job is to get down to the root and figure out, okay, what is it that you're nervous about? Is there a way that I can help you? And like I said before, put these pieces of the puzzle together. But at the same time, being able to give you 100% certainty that I can get you to the destination and get you paid at said number. So that's pretty much on my side, is because at the end of the day, everybody wants certainty.
That's right.
In whatever they purchase, whatever they buy, they want 100% certainty that it's going to work and it's going to work out right. So my job is to do that to the best of my ability, while also making business sense for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a powerful experience, you know. I mean, I'm telling you, like some of the lives that we have seen change just by, you know, real estate's the product,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the thing, but it's the purpose of transforming people's financial lives and their future is really where the impact is made, and getting people out of some crazy situations.
Yeah.
Right now we're dealing with a situation here in Houston where there was some family challenges that came up with a family, and people kind of had to go their separate ways. Person can't afford the mortgage payment. There's bills piling up, all these crazy things. They live in a nice house. Like if you drove by the house, you wouldn't think anything of it. It's a beautiful home, but inside the home, there's all kind of challenges, right? And so we were able to get, and we're closing next week, but we were able to get them to the closing table, pay off all that debt. Okay, all these bills piling up. Family kind of went separate ways. One person's in a different state. One person's still here. One person lost a job. Bills are piling up. The beautiful thing is next week when we close, all that debt gets paid, and they're gonna put literally over 6 figures of cash in their bank account.
Wow.
And you talk about, it doesn't change the challenges that they went through, but it takes away a lot of that stress.
It's funny when I talking about the family challenges and driving by a house and you wouldn't even think about it. It makes me think of whenever I was a kid and my parents, we had a construction company, 2007, the best time in the world to start a construction company, right?
Yeah, right.
And then, 2008 happens and, I think I was in 5th grade, 6th grade. You had no idea what's going on. You just see like on Dateline in the evening, something about stocks going down. It's like, okay, what's going on? And I think about it now and, they ended up having to file for bankruptcy, sell the house, and financial complications. I think my parents didn't end up walking away with anything, and I'm thinking about it now, how beneficial and impactful and just how awesome it would have been to deal with, a company like ours, somebody who's going to come in and say, hey, I know what's going on. We're going to get you to the closing table and we're going to help you out. It just struck my mind right now how awesome that would have been.
And my personal favorite part about this industry is being able to see where people come in, or how people come in when we first see them, to how they leave whenever we close on them, and how fast all of that happens. And it's like, I tell people who are going through things sometimes, you're about to completely transform your life in just a couple of months. Sometimes that can be overwhelming by how fast it can happen. But once it happens, it's so cool to just see the results and see how they were able to transform their life so quickly. And that's what's so cool about this industry is, we can do it faster than anybody. I mean, we're talking a month and you just have over $100K in your bank account.
That's right. Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, we get it done. And also what I think is really cool about how we handle these situations is there's no judgment, right? Oftentimes, number one, selling your house is hard enough, okay? I mean, it's an emotional process. There's a lot of stuff going on, and if you go the traditional route, I mean, they want you to be perfect, right? Like, I mean, the house has to be clean for showings. You got to fix this. You got to fix that. You got to make sure the dogs are in the backyard, and then it's sort of I don't want to say it, but sort of a judgmental process, right? People are judging your house and they're critiquing it. You have inspections. There's all these complicated things. On top of that, it's hard enough just to go through the process, and you have life on top of that, having its own stressors. What I love about how we work with our sellers is we tell them, like, look, you don't have to lift a finger. That house the way it is, it's completely fine. No judgment over here. We're not going to bat an eye about it, okay? We're going to come in. We're going to get the job done. We're going to get you to the closing table. We'll handle the rest. Matter of fact, if you want to leave stuff in the house after we close, we'll clean it out. Don't worry about it. There's oftentimes people will close. They're like, I'm done. I just want to leave. I don't even want to pack up. Like, I want to start a new life.
Yeah.
I got a bank account full of money. I'm ready to go. And we say, hey, do it. No problem. We'll take care of everything else for you. So it's, Jacob, you're 100% right. It's a transformation. It happens fast and it's powerful. And like I said, average person nowadays doesn't have $500. Average family doesn't have $500 for an emergency. So we're able to take take our sellers and then literally put them in a financial position that that most people are not in, you know. So it's really, really powerful. But appreciate you guys today. This is awesome. This is our first episode. We're going to continue to do this more. What I want to do is in the future, guys, what we'll do is we'll take some of our transactions, our sellers. We'll have some success stories, some customer reviews. We'll go over a little bit of kind of the insights of how Freedom Hawk Equity works. That way, you know, the people that we're working with on the other side of that phone, they can kind of take a glimpse into our world and kind of understand the process a little bit better. But I appreciate you guys, and until next time.
Until next time.
Until
All
next
right.
time.